Imagine this. You and I are having a conversation and you just say something in passing, and all of a sudden I say, "Stop that right there. That's it. That was genius." And you look at me and you say, "What?" And so I rewind it and I show you in that moment what you did with your eyes, what you did with your body, what you said, and how all of that reveals a strategy of genius within you. And that is what happens inside my Genius Lab. I take whatever it is that you're brilliant at and deconstruct and unpack it and show you how you do what you do so that you can see it and own it, but more importantly, upgrade it to get even better at whatever it is you care about most. Welcome to the Everyday Genius Show. On this episode, I want to take you on a tour inside my Genius Lab. The Genius Lab is something that I built many years ago because I wanted to deconstruct and reverse engineer how the best do what they do. Because I discovered that when people get really good at what they do, they actually don't know how they do it. When you get really good at something, what used to be very conscious, meaning you had to think about it, becomes very subconscious. It becomes like you've practiced it and it becomes so innate to what you're doing that you've moved that all into the subconscious program and you can't even really access it because it often happens really fast in your mind. And so that's often why when we try to learn from a master who's teaching, we can't replicate the results because the truth is they don't actually know how they're really doing what they do on the deepest level, which is usually where the best strategies lie. So I built the Genius Lab to deconstruct, unpack, and reverse engineer that. And the Genius Lab is both a place, which is my office, and it's also a process. Now, I could take the Genius Lab to somebody, and I have on occasion, but it's really the process that I developed over the years to unpack somebody's subconscious mind and take what happens in a split second in their mind and really see the steps that are going on to get the results that somebody is getting. So let's say somebody comes in to my Genius Lab. They walk in and they take a seat right next to me, usually on a stool, sometimes on a chair. But the reason that I want them right next to me is so that I can see their full body, because I'm not just listening to what they're saying, I'm seeing what they're saying. I'm tracking all kinds of body language clues. So I go through a series of questions. So before I start, the very first thing I do is I'm trying to track their genius at really the highest soul level. Because what happens is we've got this genius that we come in with, and everybody has a genius, which is something that they're really innately gifted with. And by developing it and geniusing with enough time and geniusing effort, it will at some point look to the outer world like somebody is a genius. And yet, that's all just the result of a process. But what I'm looking for is what is somebody's genius at the highest level. And we develop these skills that are usually an expression of our genius at a higher level. Now, let me just give you a couple of examples of that. I one time had a really successful CEO in my Genius Lab, and she was just really amazing and sold her company for a metric ton of money. But when I deconstructed her genius, what I realized when I tracked it at the highest level was that her genius was actually being able to see up ahead and guide people to a new future. And the way she did that was by, over time, becoming a CEO of a very innovative company that helped sort of older companies see new technologies and adopt them. And now that she sold her company and she's in a different phase of her career, she's helping younger women navigate what's up ahead in their career and be prepared for it. So it's like the same genius expressed in different contexts. And so we stack these skills and we build these skills in support of a bigger genius. And so that's kind of what I'm interested in and I'm tracking. And I use my genius to do that, which is my intuition and my honed ability to do this over the years to really see what that is at the highest level. Another example, had a shaman in my Genius Lab, and he creates healing miracles on a regular basis. But when I tracked his genius at the highest level, what I saw really clearly was that he was really gifted at helping people create freedom. Freedom from pain, freedom from emotional suffering, freedom from a stuck place in their life, just freedom. So his genius was in helping people create freedom. And the way he did that was through shamanic healing. So those are just a couple of examples. So the very first thing that happens is someone sits down and I'm tracking at the highest level what really is their genius. And then we take that And I asked them to think about a time where they did that when they were at their absolute best, because I want the best, most brilliant moment where they executed on something. Because when you can deconstruct someone when they're at their best and had those best moments, you really get the best version of their strategy, which is what I'm interested in. So they pick a time when they were at their best. And now I run through my process and I go through a series of questions. And the questions relate to, what are somebody's goals? What are they trying to achieve? How are they doing it? What are their beliefs? What are the guiding questions in their mind directing their behavior? And I'm looking for strategies of genius that they're using. Now, over the years, I've discovered there are very common strategies of genius that almost everybody uses. They use it in different ways, but they're almost always present in somebody's strategy. And I did a whole video on this called 5 Strategies of Genius. You can check that out. So I'm asking them all these questions and taking notes and running through this whole process to really deconstruct how they do what they do. But now here's where it gets interesting. As I'm doing that, I'm paying very close attention to what they're saying with their body and their voice, because they can give me the answers verbally, and that's helpful. But it's usually the real genius happens when there's a body language clue. For example, somebody might always be looking at a certain spot when I'm asking them a question. And so if I can lock their eyes in onto that spot they're looking at and they can hold it long enough, what they'll see is a whole very rich process going on in their mind that is creating the results that they are getting. And a couple of examples of that is I had a top wine taster in my Genius Lab, and he would just keep putting his eyes in a spot. And what that was really doing was accessing a visual tasting grid in his mind's eye. It looked like literally a tasting grid where he could track in a wine what are the fruits, non-fruits, earth, mineral, oak, acid, alcohol, tannin, finish, and he kind of would just fill it out in his mind. He had no idea he did this. Another example is I had this woman in my Genius Lab. She was quite a good politician, very young, but a brilliant politician, and her eyes kept going to a spot when she was talking about people. And I said, "What's there?" And when she held it, what she realized was that she keeps this very rich mind map of each person, what they like, what they dislike, what their motivations are, and creates this whole model of somebody in her mind, because that helps her understand their motivation, which is a good thing to know when you are in a political field. And so the eye positions will usually reveal a really rich strategy. The other thing I'm looking for is some body language clues, like when someone says, "Oh yeah, I just asked a question and they did this." Or sometimes they'll do this. And I've discovered what that is usually a checklist. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I asked a question from this." And so when we slow that down, it's usually a checklist in someone's mind they're completely unaware of, but a checklist that's been honed over thousands of examples and many years of the perfect questions to ask, the perfect things to look for, the perfect, things to analyze. It's a checklist, and usually it's this or this that reveals a checklist inside someone's mind. Another one that I see quite often is someone will lean back just a little bit, like they'll do just like this, just like a little lean back. Usually it's not dramatic, it's much more subtle. And what that often is somebody is zooming out and getting a bigger picture perspective on a situation where they're kind of seeing it from a third person point of view. And it's just like a little lean back with their body. And that's usually a very rich strategy of somebody looking at things through multiple points of view. And that point of view is like a third person point of view, a real genius strategy. So those are some body language clues. The voice tonality is also a really interesting one. When people talk really fast or in a high pitch, that's usually a visual cue, like they're thinking about something visually. But when their voice gets really low and deep and serious and really profound like this, that's usually a sign that whatever they're saying is deeply important to them and matters on a real soul level, whether it's a belief or a conviction or why they do what they do, which often hints me off to a deeper motivation for why they do what they do, which is usually a rich strategy and a motivational strategy. So those are all examples. So I'm hearing what they're saying through my questions, but I'm seeing what they're saying through a whole lot of visual cues. And all of that data comes in through the Genius Lab. And usually a Genius Lab session is about 3 hours. And it can be one day, or if they want to go deeper, it can be 2 days. So kind of just depending on the person. And from that, we just get a ton of information. I take all of that, and after the session, I rewatch the video, which we film, and go through all my notes. And I really clean it all up to create a holistic picture of what someone's genius is and how they do what they do, and where they might be able to pull some levers to get even better results. So that is the Genius Lab. Really profound things come out of the Genius Lab. So some of the benefits of the Genius Lab are that for the first time, I think people really feel seen. They really feel like their genius was seen, not just by me and by a witness, but they actually see their genius for themselves. And there is deep healing in that. And when I say healing, it's like when you can see your own genius, there is a level of confidence and a level of knowing and a level of self love that happens through that process because you're like, wow, I guess I am really good at what I do. I had no idea. Another thing that comes out of the Genius Lab is really that ability to see how you do what you do and to see where the levers are where you can get better just by shining a light on how you do what you do. Every single person, without exception, that's comes from my Genius Lab has actually gotten better at what they do just by seeing it and bringing some conscious awareness to it. Because with conscious awareness, you can then get better. And then when I kind of can help point out some of the levers that might be able to be tweaked to get even better results, that's when things really take off. Another benefit, and this is not for everybody, but for people that want to teach, the Genius Lab really provides the step-by-step of how somebody actually gets the results that they're getting. I once had a sales guy in my Genius Lab, a really brilliant sales guy, and he really wanted to know how he got such great results because he wanted to teach the younger people, the more junior salespeople on his team, how he did what he did so that they could get similar results and they would up the whole sales game. So we did a Genius Lab and unpacked his sales strategy and then created some training materials to help his team. And they got some incredible results after that. So those are just a few examples for people that want to teach. And somebody once said that he thought it was the most powerful healing modality on the planet right now. And I think healing is an interesting word because I think it really is a deeply transformative experience. That's what I might say. It's a deeply transformative experience for the person that goes through it because so much happens and so much awareness is brought and so much, I don't know, noticing of like your best and your gifts and what you're really here for at like the most soul level. So you can see my voice get low and deep because this matters to me. This is what I care about. Like, this is what I love. I love helping people see that about themselves, see the greatness in themselves. So that is the Genius Lab. If you find this interesting or you or someone you know might want to go through the Genius Lab, check out the link in the description and you can check out how it works and how to contact me to learn more. As always, thank you for letting me give you a sneak peek inside my world and specifically inside my Genius Lab. On the next episode, I look forward to continuing our conversation about your genius and I will see you there.